Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a fuel pressure regulator on a 1990 Miata, the advanced kit. Let's get started. We'll show you how to do this. So I ordered this kit from Advanced Autosports. It's a pretty solid fuel pressure regulator kit for the 90 to 97 Miatas. And especially in the spec environment, you want to be able to adjust your fuel pressure to essentially target your air-fuel ratio. So this car, while I'm going to be listing it for sale, has the MAF on there and it's tilted, and I've got a wideband installed, but really makes sense to install this because I've already got it. So we'll walk through the install update here. Let's get you situated and set up. I apologize for the fan noise in advance. It's about 100 degrees here in the shop, so we're just going to deal with it. So let's get you set up. So what do you get in the kit? You get this really nice Aeromotive fuel pressure regulator with the bracket. You get some universal hose and some adapter fittings and these basic instructions. So let's walk through the... Alright, so I'm missing a couple of things here, so I got more room, but the synopsis is we're pulling off this regulator. There's some 10 mils. I'm going to hook up the vacuum line. I've always liked the vacuum assisted fuel pressure regulator, so instead of capping it off as the instructions say, I'm actually going to hook it up. But you're going to pull this off. This is your return line, and it ties up to the regulator, and essentially we're just replacing this with the new one in line. So the adapter is going to go on the rail, line's going to feed the fuel pressure regulator mounts right here on the strut tower, and then we're going to come back into here. So let's get started and get this. This process is pretty simple. Just a 10 millimeter pulls off the regulator, and then just, you see here, pliers to loosen up the factory hose clamps, and you are all set to go. Alright, so regulator's off. Pretty simple. It's a couple 10 millimeter bolts, and the line's been snaked out. I may just cut this, or I may just loop it, keep it looped and run it in. We'll see how the fitment goes. But now essentially it's just mount the adapter and mount the regulator. Alright, so for the next piece you're going to need this adapter. Now they've got it as a two-piece design, which is kind of neat. Notice the O-ring's a little shiny. I put a little oil on there, and then you want to use the new bolts. So I'll thread that in, clock it, and then put the bolts on, torque it down. So what I'm going to recommend you do is you push the fitting in first with the oil. You'll be able to push it in by hand. You'll feel it click, and then you're good. Now you just want to thread these in and torque it down. It's not going to take a lot. It's aluminum to aluminum, so I'm just going to go a little past, blow tight. So I don't know. I bet you the torque spec's probably 8 to 15 foot-pounds. I didn't look it up, but it's pretty minor. The O-ring does the sealing. The plate is captive, and there's a fitting on the back side of that threaded piece, or a bushing rather, that'll keep it from coming out. So go. So we'll just torque this one down a little bit. I don't want to go too tight, but not too loose. Nice and snug there. That's probably plenty good there. So now we've got this fitting on. It's torqued down. Now you want to mount your regulator right here on these strut bolts. So the kit does come with 2 new nuts, which is really nice. I like this design. I like how it looks. We'll put an Allen wrench on that to make sure that's tight. This looks like that's got sealer on it, and it's good to go as well. This is going to be your Schrader port for testing fuel or setting the fuel pressure if you've got an aftermarket gauge, and these fittings look pretty good as well. So it doesn't get much easier than this. Nice little bracket goes right over the top, and it looks like I'm not going to clear my Bilstein struts, so I'll have to be a little creative with this here. Let's come up with a solution. Stay tuned. Alright, so what we did is I unbolted the fuel pressure regulator. It's a couple 7mm. And looking at how this is going to line up, it's going to be fairly close to this middle hole here. So my plan is I'm going to auger this out with the unibit, and then we're going to mount the bracket, and then we're going to put the regulator back in here to see how it clears the strut. I think it's going to land over on this side. It may end up coming down here. So let's go ahead and get that drilled out quick. So there, we've got proper clearance. It ended up being just under a 3/4 inch hole. So I think I've got two options. I can use this original hole and rotate it this way, but I'd like to be able to give the end user access to this strut nut here. So I'm actually going to mount it over here and make sure I've got room to get to this top piece. Actually, it's not adjustable, so I'm going to put it over here, put it further back. So I'll reuse this existing bolt, and I'll just mark one right down here on the other. Hold it in place. There we go. So I drill that other hole and be able to bolt it back together and finish it up. Voila, mounted. Again, those are 7mm bolts and nuts to take them off. So the next step is to mount it down, 1/2 inch socket. Just gonna put this back into place. Everything clears just fine. Got some wiggle room. And these are lock washers, or locking nuts rather, so just take them down enough so they don't come off. It's pretty simple. That. Just enough room with clocking it to get a wrench in there. So there, now it's nice and secure. Now you're just routing hoses. You want to route your feed line to here, your return, which this gives me plenty of room to do something like this. So I can just keep it looped, put the clamp back on, run the feed, run a vacuum line, and you're pretty much done. From here it's pretty simple. You're just going to take the lines and put the clamps on there. I'm starting on the fuel pressure regulator side, the old one rather. Putting the clamp down, making sure I have proper access to it. Then I just run the line out to the other end, cut it to length, put the other clamp on, and now we just measure the bottom. I ended up actually looping the line. It's about this time I realized that those fittings that I said I was going to tighten, I forgot to tighten. So unfortunately I'm going to have to take it all apart here and then put it back together. So we'll just end this clip here and move on to the next part. And there you have it, final install. Vacuum line's hooked up. Feed, drain. So even when you run into problems here, just keep your wits, think about it, come up with a solution. Hopefully that's helpful. Please like, click, subscribe, share, and all that other social media stuff. Thank you.